Hello and welcome to the Arrivals Podcast. I'm your host, Merelise Wilson, and today I have Carolyn Donaldson with me.
Hello.
Hello. It's so good to see you.
You too.
It's
I'm
been a
excited.
really long time.
I know.
I'm so glad you reached out about coming on.
Yeah, I'm excited. I have
Good.
had a long time fascination with all things pregnancy and birth and have definitely unique stories. So excited to be here.
Same. I know. I don't know what it is, but ever since I can really remember, I've just always been fascinated with pregnancy, especially.
Yeah.
I feel like I was just really excited to be pregnant and see what that felt like. And then, of course, that then became a fascination with birth as well.
Yeah, for
which
sure.
is sustained, obviously.
I don't know did you ever listen to the Birth Hour podcast?
No, but I can't believe I don't listen to it. I know of it.
Yeah.
But I
don't know
obviously
if it's still being recorded. It
Okay.
might be, but it used to be like the institution, I feel like, of birth stories.
Yes.
And when I was pregnant with Ford, at least like the first half, I listened to like 100 episodes.
I know. Well, and I didn't listen to that podcast, but I listened to so many other podcasts with birth stories in them. And yes, I love it.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, speaking of Ford, you want to start with him?
Sure. So yeah, I'll say first, just for context, I have 3 kids. They're all healthy and beautiful. Ford is 7. He's in first grade. Blair is 4. And then my baby Lila is about to be 1. So there's a lot of twists and turns to the story, but I want to go ahead and give the ending.
Yeah.
Okay. So Ford's pregnancy and birth was like, a miracle looking back. All my babies are miracles, but he was also a guinea pig because there was a lot about my like anatomy that we didn't know yet. Mm-hmm. So the first half of his pregnancy was pretty normal or very normal. I was young-ish.
I was going to say, you were kind of one of your first, I feel like first friends to have babies.
In our group of friends. I was 27, which I feel like is youngish for like our generation. Yeah. So healthy, no risk factors, pretty much the whole, all the blood tests, all those appointments for the first half. It was just like, check. Everything's good, growing well. At our anatomy scan, the perinatologist found 2 issues. Our practice, I go to Piedmont OBGYN.
I have a lot of friends at that practice.
Yeah. One of your other guests, I can't remember who, shouted out my doctor, who's Dr. Combs, who I love. I can't remember who it was. And I was listening. I was like, I love her. Yeah, she plays a big part in my story. But my practice sends all of their 20-week scans to perinatology as just like standard. Okay. I think to be, extra cautious. So it was my first time there. But she found 2 issues. One was a club foot, which I can come back to. And then a mass in his liver. We actually didn't know he was a boy at this time. We were going to wait until birth. So a mass in the liver. So the mass was sizable, but they couldn't really tell what it was. It didn't have like a name or a label. And so the plan was basically to go get a fetal MRI at CHOA and then come back and they were going to just watch it. And because they were seeing a club foot as well, which a club foot is not that big of a deal. It's basically like, where the foot is turned in from the ankle. If a baby's born with a club foot, they just like wear braces. It's normally like resolved by the time they're walking. So definitely not like life-threatening in any ways. But whenever there's 2 or more abnormalities, then they're kind of on high alert for a bigger thing that could be going on, a bigger like condition. Yeah. So because there were 2 abnormalities and because I didn't really know what this thing in the liver was, except for that it's like kind of big, we were like high risk from there on out. And so we got that MRI and immediately met with the radiologist, which was amazing because that's definitely not standard. And we could see like with our naked eye, the mass, that's what they kept calling it. It was like grape sized, which is pretty big for a little 20-week baby.
Yes.
Taking up a lot of his little abdomen. They were not seeing blood flow, which was a good thing.
Okay.
Blood flow would have been like more of a risk of like a tumor or something like that. So yeah, they just didn't know what it was. And we're kind of like, we just need to watch it and see if it grows or changes. I think the like worst case scenario would have been him having surgery after he was born. But it was one of those things that like, I say this with all the sensitivity that people get much worse news in anatomy scans and, horrible diagnoses. But because it didn't have a name, it was so like vague. It
Yeah.
was like there was nothing we could even Google.
Right.
There was nothing to know like what are we going to expect here?
Mhm.
And I think in the back of my mind I was just afraid that it was just a symptom of something bigger going on that they
Mhm.
just hadn't figured out yet.
Yeah.
That was my kind of fear. So that definitely like colored the whole rest of our
Yeah.
pregnancy in terms of kind of just my mental state. But 2 weeks later we go back to the perinatologist, MFM. I'm gonna
Mhm.
say MFM because
MFM
it's
is easier.
it's easier and I'm a frequent flyer there, so I'm gonna mention it a lot. And I mean, the short story is they couldn't find it. It had
Wow.
basically resolved itself. The tech could only find it because she had the image from the anatomy
Mm.
scan to
Mhm.
like go off of, but she could barely even there was barely even enough there to measure.
Mhm.
So it had all but resolved itself, which is a thing that happens sometimes. Like we all have things in our bodies that get resolved and they think they just like caught it at a bad time basically
Mhm.
at the anatomy scan. But the doctor, like the MFM, and I understand why they're trained this way and they only see high risk things.
Mhm.
They have to be incredibly conservative for liability reasons. And there was something wrong before. I mean, I saw it with my own eye on the MRI.
Yeah.
So I think I would have been tempted to think that they made a mistake, but because I had seen it, I knew that it was there and now it wasn't.
Mhm.
So they can never just say like, "Oh, you're good now." Like that's
Right.
not in their
Go
vocabulary.
on your merry way.
Yes, that's not a thing. That's what I wanted the whole pregnancy was for her
Yeah.
to be like, "Everything's perfect. Your baby's going to be totally healthy."
Yeah.
But they can't, make those guarantees. And they were still seeing the club foot.
Mhm.
So I was going back every 2 weeks. The good thing was because again, they had the 2 risk factors. Pretty much every scan when I went back was a mini anatomy scan. Like
Mhm.
they were looking at heart, brain, all the things and everything else was checking out. So I
Mhm.
was getting that like reassurance that things were looking good.
Is that why
Um
you couldn't really avoid finding out the gender?
okay, so we were going to not find out till birth.
Yeah.
After I got my MRI, and then when we came back for the next appointment, and the tech, her name was Casey. I loved her. She basically told us that she couldn't find the mass, which they're not really supposed to do.
Yeah.
The MFMs are supposed to
Yeah.
say all that. But we were just feeling giddy and like so relieved about
Yeah.
that. And even though the club foot was still there, we were like, who gives a shit about this club
Right.
foot? Like,
Yeah, it's not
we will deal
life-threatening.
with that.
Yeah.
But so we spontaneously were like, let's find out the gender. Like
I love
we
it.
were over surprises. We were like, we
Yes.
just want to know everything about this baby.
Yeah.
So yes, at 22 weeks, we found out it was a boy.
Okay.
So yeah, we were going back every 2 weeks. Growth was looking good. Everything was quote good. But again, she never said like, you're now fine. It was like
Mhm.
what she would always say is things look great today. Let's come back in 2 weeks.
Mm.
So it was kind of like I would feel better and then would, still spiral after a couple of days.
That's a tough state to live in.
It really was.
Yeah.
And then as I got more and more pregnant, I physically was getting super uncomfortable.
Mm.
So starting pretty early, like 24, 26 weeks, he was breech.
Mhm.
We could see on ultrasound. And I started having really bad back pain.
Mm.
So my theory was that he was like sitting on my sciatic
Mm.
because that's kind of how he looked. He kind of looked like he was sitting in a chair
Yeah.
on ultrasound. But I was just like uncomfortable all the time. It was hard to sit,
Mhm.
hard to stand for long periods of time.
And that's early to feel that way.
Exactly. I wasn't even that big, but I
Right.
was just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then I started having Braxton Hicks also very early
Mm.
and I felt like they were like pretty intense. They weren't painful,
Yeah.
like contractions, but they were intense and tight. And I felt like they were kind of, I mean, I obviously had nothing to compare it to, but I felt like it was more often
Yeah.
and more intense than like what people talked about.
Mhm.
So at 30 weeks, I had a day where I felt like I had just had basically Braxton hits all day long.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really worried about that I was in labor because every time I was getting these scans at the MFM, they were measuring my cervix
Right.
via ultrasound. So it was long and closed. So I didn't really think I was in labor, but I was just like, this doesn't feel normal.
Mhm.
So I went in and they did a non-stress test,
Mhm.
hooked me up, watched the baby for 30 minutes or
Mhm.
whatever. And the verdict was basically, yes, you're having contractions, but no, they're not productive.
Right.
You're not dilating.
Prodromal labor, basically.
Exactly. And
Mhm.
they were like, this happens for some people. Some people have contractions for a long time before you give birth.
Lucky you.
Exactly. They're basically like, you're one of these unlucky people. So sorry. Basically, call us if it gets a lot worse or
Yeah.
feels a lot different.
Yeah.
And so I was like, great. So that was 30 weeks. At 32 weeks, I had my baby shower
Mhm.
and my sister came in town. So we spent the night at my parents' the night before the shower.
Mhm.
And I remember I ended up sleeping that night in my dad's recliner
Oh,
because I could not get comfortable in any position in a
yeah.
bed. So I like barely slept, could barely sit slash stand through my shower.
Mm.
And so after the shower, my mom was like, I think you should go get checked again. Like, this
Yeah.
does not seem normal.
Yeah.
But this was a Saturday.
Mm.
So obviously I couldn't just go to my OB. So they sent me to labor and delivery. And this time I think they hooked me up and watched me for like longer, maybe an hour or two.
Yeah.
And kind of same thing. Yes, you're having contractions. They're not productive. You're not dilated, you know, like
Sorry.
wait and see. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. But I think because it was my second time and maybe because I was getting closer, I was getting farther along, they also decided to check to do a swab for fetal fibronectin.
I haven't heard that.
So it's a vaginal swab. Fetal fibronectin is a protein that's
Okay.
like in sort of the glue between your amniotic sac and your uterus.
Mm.
So if you're really in labor, the sac is pulling away from the uterus, so
Right.
that protein would like start coming out.
Mhm.
So they swab, and if they're seeing that protein, then typically they say you have a higher chance of going to labor between 7 and 14 days.
Okay. Is it anything similar to a mucus plug, or is it totally separate?
I don't know.
Okay.
I would think it's probably this a similar like
The material
the
must be
material, yeah,
related
because it's
somehow.
like whatever's surrounding,
Right.
but it's not something that you see with the naked eye.
Yes.
So anyway, I was positive for that.
Mm.
But they give you 1,000 caveats that there's like a lot of false positives.
Mm.
There's a lot of other reasons why you could have protein in your vagina.
Great.
So it's funny because like looking back, I don't remember like then being convinced that I was going to have an early baby.
Yeah.
And maybe I should have, I don't know. Or also maybe I forgot. But so I was positive for that. And so they said to be extra safe, we can go ahead and give you the steroid shot for your baby's like lungs to develop and
Mhm,
all of
mhm.
that in case you do go into labor early.
Yeah.
So I did get that at 32 weeks. Okay. So then 2 weeks later, 34 weeks now,
And are you
getting,
this whole time, are you still having Braxton Hicks?
yes,
Okay.
getting more and more
Oh,
uncomfortable. The night before this, I ended up sleeping on a camping mattress that Nick pulled out of the attic because none of the beds in our house
oh,
were working. I mean, I was like barely sleeping.
yeah, of course. I remember, just with my kind of standard pregnancy, towards the end of it, I wanted to sleep in the recliner in the kids' room.
Mhm.
Like, because I was like, that is the most comfortable. It was like, I could sleep in whatever position, but this sounds like next level.
Yeah, I mean, sitting was by far the worst. Like,
Mm.
I ended up working from home starting, I don't know, maybe 8 weeks or so because my boss saw me switching chairs like
Oh,
every hour. And he
yeah.
was like, I think that you're good. You can work from home. I was like, thank God. Really, the only thing that felt good was taking a bath
Mm.
or like lounging on the
Mhm.
couch, but it's hard to sleep like that.
Right.
So, yeah, sleep was hard to come by. I was uncomfortable. And it was also August. So it was
Ugh,
hot as
so
shit in
hot.
Atlanta. And I was just miserable.
Yes.
So I was 34 weeks and 2 days. It's a Saturday. We go to brunch with some friends that
Mhm.
morning, and I can barely get through brunch. I'm like switching spots with Nick, like moving from a chair to a booth.
Ugh,
We had to ask a
Carolyn.
waitress for a pillow. Or I asked a waitress for a pillow, which is like so embarrassing. They
Oh.
had one, which was great. But yeah, we could barely get through. So we get home and I basically have a mental breakdown.
Understandable
Yeah.
at this point.
But I was just bawling to Nick and was like, I just don't know if I can do this for 6 more
Mm,
weeks. Like,
mhm.
I'm so uncomfortable. I'm not sleeping, which LOL, because once you have a
I
baby, you
know.
also don't
It's
sleep.
all relative.
But, I was like, it feels like torture, not
Yeah.
being able to sleep when you're that
Yeah, it
pregnant.
does.
And then I said the words out loud to him, which is like this weird intuition. I said, I feel like he doesn't have enough room,
Mm.
which I don't know where that thought came from. It sounded
Mhm.
illogical coming out of my mouth, but
Mhm.
anyway, so he's trying to calm me down. He's like, okay, take a bath and then we'll just sit on the couch all day, binge
Yeah.
watch. It's so hot outside. We're not going to do anything.
Right,
Like,
just crank the AC.
exactly. So I did that. I took a bath and then I was sitting on the couch and I'll never forget it. I was wearing like shorts and just like a big t-shirt because
Yeah.
it's so hot. My father-in-law had come over to drop something off. And so him and Nick were talking and I interrupted them and yelled basically, something's happening because I felt the only way I could describe it is like kind of like a release.
Mm.
And so I immediately stood up and
Gosh.
my water broke, a full gush, like just like the
Oof.
movies. And I had shorts on, so there was nothing to like
Yeah.
hold it back, you know? It was like, you poured a whole pitcher of lemonade on
It is
my living
shocking
room
the
rug.
amount of fluid.
It is crazy. I mean, and it just kept coming.
Yes, I know. It's like you'd think that at some point you'd run out, but it just keeps
No,
coming. I
it was
know.
wild. So obviously I'm immediately panicked because
Yeah.
I'm 34 weeks, 2 days.
And so oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, had there been discussions knowing that he'd been breech and you were having
Okay.
regular ultrasounds, like, were there discussions about it scheduling a C-section, or what was the plan there?
Um, I
Or
wasn't
not,
I wasn't far enough along for them to schedule it, for it to actually be on the
Right.
calendar yet.
Okay.
We had talked about potentially doing a CV to get him to flip.
Yeah.
Oh, also because my back pain was so bad, I was going to a chiropractor
Yeah.
like once or twice a week. I was doing spinning babies. I don't know if you know
Yeah.
what
Oh,
that
yes,
is,
of
to
course.
try and get him in the right position because I thought that was the cause of a lot of
Mhm.
my like discomfort, which maybe it was, but I mean, we'll get to the
I
end of the
know.
story. There's no way he
Stay
could have flipped.
tuned.
I spent, oh my God, so much money at a
Oh.
chiropractor. So yeah, we had not got to the scheduling part yet, but I was very open to like accepting that there was a good chance I was going to have a C-section.
Mhm.
I think looking back, I think I was, open to doing a CV or something
Mhm.
to get him to try and flip, but
Yeah.
honestly, we hadn't really like got there yet.
Yeah.
Like before all of this, I would say I was definitely more open to like a natural, potentially unmedicated. I didn't
Mhm.
have I'd listened to enough birth stories to know that like there's no point in having a plan. So I didn't have
Yeah.
like a strong opinion. I wasn't going in being like, I for sure want to go unmedicated. But the whole like theory behind it made a lot of sense to me of
Yeah.
like being able to feel your body and like recovery being better and all of that.
Waterfall of intervention, all of yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Okay, so my water breaks. I'm panicking
Ugh.
because it's early, and I
Right.
don't know I have no idea what a 34-week baby looks like. How,
Mhm.
like, I mean, I think I knew they survived most of the time. I don't know. I was panicked.
Yeah.
The feeling that I remember most is like, I wanted to like undo,
Mm. Oh god,
like
I know
it's almost
exactly what
like,
you mean.
yeah, it's like when
Yeah.
you, I told Nick it's kind of like when you get into like a minor car wreck and you're just like, oh my God, I just want to rewind 10 seconds and not do that. Like, can I go back and sit on the couch and get in a different position and maybe this wouldn't have happened? Like, I just
Ugh.
wanted to take all the water and shove it back
Oh
inside.
my god, I know exactly what you mean. Yes.
Yeah. I was just like, I don't know. I felt like, what can I do to kind of rewind?
Right, if I just
But
shut my eyes really tight, maybe it didn't
exactly.
happen.
Because I knew enough about birth to know like once your water breaks, you're having a baby. It's not like
Yeah,
they can
you're on
then.
some sort of clock.
Exactly. So anyway, I'm freaking out. I don't really even remember like this next little bit, but I remember we called labor and delivery. It's a Saturday.
Mhm.
My OB was on call, which was amazing. And she talked to me on the phone and said, we're going to have a baby today and it's going to be great.
Yeah,
And that like meant everything to me.
yeah.
Just like her confidence,
Yes. You feed off that energy.
100%.
Yeah.
So we got in the car and started driving. I pretty much immediately started having contractions
Wow.
and they were different from the ones I'd been
Mm.
having. So I was like, okay, this is real. And then also anyone who's fully lost their water,
Mhm.
the contractions are more intense because you
Mhm.
have like no padding.
Yes. Oh,
They
I know.
also they also look intense from the outside.
Yeah.
Like Nick was genuinely like worried, like, is that normal? I was like, I don't know.
Oh, it's
But
so
like,
interesting. I don't remember ever looking at
okay,
my belly. I wish I had.
maybe it's more because my uterus is whack, which we'll get to. But like there were times when it would like go completely to one side or the other. Like it looked like an alien
Interesting.
inside. It was so
Interesting.
weird. And it deflates so quickly.
Yeah.
Like it's really weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm having contractions in the car. I have no idea if I timed them or any of that because
Yeah.
I'm just like totally out of body. But we're driving, and I guess between contractions, Nick's trying to distract me. He's like, it's kind of cool. I was thinking today's August 18th, 8/18. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I was like, wait, it's 8/18/18. So it's
Oh,
2018.
aw.
I was like, okay, that's a really cool birthday. This is a
Yes.
super
That's a good
insane
sign.
experience, but
Yes.
like I'll take whatever good side I can
Yes.
get.
I was wondering,
So,
so as you know, I have a Ford as well.
yeah.
He's also August, and I was
Oh,
I
really?
was I was wondering if they were the same date, but they're
What is
not.
he?
He's August 26th.
Okay.
Close.
Yeah. So we get to the hospital, get checked in. They pretty much immediately scanned me because I had been at the MFM 2 days before on
Mhm.
Thursday, and he was breached then.
Yeah.
So they had all of that in their system or whatever. And so they do a quick scan. He's still breached. You're
Mhm.
getting a C-section,
Yeah.
which I'm thankful looking back that there was no gray area. It was just like,
Mhm.
this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I think with like the state I was in, it was good to just be like, I'm just following directions. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not here to, I don't think I was in a place to like make decisions.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that was good. So they're getting me checked in. They have to ask you like
I know.
1,000 questions.
I
And
know.
most people do this before, but I was
You thought you
too
had
early.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're asking me all these questions. And at one point, Nick tells the nurse what we were talking about in the car, like, oh, it's 8/18/18. That's pretty cool. And she was like, yeah, we've delivered a lot of 8/18/18 babies today, obviously. But she said, we actually had a C-section this morning that we delivered at 8:18 a.m.
Oh,
And this is, my water broke at 2:30. This is probably like 4 o'clock.
okay.
And we're like, oh,
Can
maybe we can
we
do 8:18 p.m.
Yeah.
And she was like, I don't see why not. And she was like, baby's stable. Like, I was in labor for sure and my water broke, but it wasn't like an emergency
Right.
C-section,
Right.
baby was fine. And so she was like, they kind of have like slots for the OR. So
Yeah.
she was like, I think we have a 5:30. Maybe you can get the 7:30. And we were
Yeah.
like, okay. Just so funny looking back. Cause like we're in kind of a scary,
Well,
situation, but we're like scheduling this baby like a pizza.
I know, but I was talking to someone else recently, and I feel like you gotta find those fun moments
Yeah,
in any kind of birth, but especially with C-sections. Like, there are perks to it. Like,
totally.
you can pick your baby's birthday. You can pick your baby's birth time.
Yeah.
Like, go for it.
Which I never thought about the time part before, but she was like, yeah, this morning they really wanted 8:18. So, we just kind of hung out there for a few minutes and waited to
Yeah.
pull him out. I was like, wow.
I love it.
So yeah, this was like at 4 o'clock. And so she said, if you're going to go in at 7:30, we would like to wait to do an epidural or,
Mhm.
not epidural, spinal
Spinal
tap,
tap.
because if for some reason it wears off and then it's surgery time, like their last resort would be they'd have to put me under. And I knew I didn't want that.
Yeah.
So she was kind of like, can you manage?
Mhm.
You can do other things until then if you need to.
Right.
But I was like, yeah, I think, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Exactly.
In this moment, I'm okay.
So I had 3 or 4 hours of just laboring on my own
Mhm.
with nothing, which to be honest, I don't remember much of.
Yeah.
I think I was just like kind of blacked out. And also like, I think you just forget these things on
And
purpose.
and you knew you had, like, an end time.
Maybe.
I always say that I think contractions and, like, going through all that would be so much easier if you knew exactly how long you had to do it for.
I think that's probably true.
So you knew you had an
I
end in
knew that
sight.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I was just like, I felt like I was just like doing what I was told. I wasn't like actively managing anything. It was just like very much survival mode.
Yeah. Do you feel like you were a
Um,
little mentally, like, somewhere else or
oh,
Yeah.
totally. I mean, I don't really remember it, to be
Yeah.
honest. Like Nick remembers more, and I have one picture of me like standing against the wall. I
Mm.
don't even know who took it. I don't know if it
Yeah.
was Nick or a nurse or whatever. So yeah, I knew I think they gave me one bag of IV
Mhm.
fluids to flush things out, something. I don't
Yeah.
know, something that they have to do. Then I didn't have any, I wasn't hooked up except for the baby being monitored. So I know I walked around a lot. I leaned on Nick, was just like breathing through it, I
Yeah.
guess. So yeah, then it was 7:30. They wheeled me back, had to do the spinal tap.
Did they ever check to see how dilated you were? Just out of curiosity?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Surely they did. You
I'm
would
always so
think.
curious. Like, I'm like, what if you were
I know.
I feel
You
like,
would think they, well, I know they did with Blair
Yeah.
because they kind of like rushed me back.
Mm.
So maybe they checked when I first got there. They
Yeah.
also had to verify that my water broke when I first got
Right.
there, which it was very obvious.
Yeah.
But so maybe they checked then. I really don't
Okay.
remember. But
Yeah.
I don't remember them checking like along the way.
Yeah.
Maybe because they knew they had something and like it would be obvious if he was falling out. I don't
Yeah, I don't
know.
know.
So got the spinal tap. And then once like surgery started, that's when I felt like I like started panicking a little bit because I was
Yeah.
just like, I just like was so anxious to see if he was okay.
Mhm.
And I had really bad like shakes
Mm.
from
I've heard
the
that consistently.
anesthesia.
Mhm.
Yeah. The uncontrollable like teeth chattering,
Oh gosh.
which is just like a weird feeling.
Yeah. You're like, "Can I get, like, a wooden spoon or something?"
Literally. And I'm not trying to do it. It's like such a
Yeah.
yeah, I'd never had any type of surgery or anything before.
Mhm.
So that was definitely a first. So anyway, they start and they kind of like call out as they're going.
Okay.
It's like we're cutting through the epidermis or I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know all the terms, but And so when they get down to the last cut, which is to open my
Mhm.
uterus, my doctor said something like, "Wow." And then
Not
she
exactly what you wanna
I
hear.
know, but it was with a happy tone. It
Okay,
didn't sound scared,
that's
I will
good.
say. But then she goes, "Hey, dad," like talking to Nick, and she's like, "If you are up for it, like you might want to see this. I've never seen this before." So he stood up and she held up my uterus and it's heart shaped.
Was he still inside your uterus at this
He was
point?
still inside my
Oh my
uterus at
god,
this
this is
point.
so wild. I wish you had
Yes.
this on
This
video.
was also, I will say, I think this was around like 8:10. So they were trying to kill a little time before
Yeah.
8:18.
Yeah.
So yeah, he stood up, they showed it to him, and then I don't remember if she said while we were in there, like, this is a bicornuate uterus, but
Mhm.
I remember Nick telling me it's heart shaped.
Wow.
I had no idea what that meant. And then she called a med student to come in and take a picture, which
Oh
is
my
the
gosh.
picture that I showed you,
It's so cool.
because I guess she wanted to use it as a teaching moment.
Yes. Are you in a textbook somewhere? Do you know?
Probably. I don't know. I should have asked her.
Yeah.
So yeah, then
And I
there
guess also we should say too for people, if you're wondering, a normal uterus is just like round.
right.
Yeah.
Well, when you're not pregnant, a normal uterus is like a triangle,
Okay, good to know.
inverted triangle, flat
Okay.
on the top. As you get more and more pregnant, it basically turns into
Mhm.
basically a circle.
Yeah.
But
Or an
mine is a
oval.
very clear heart, like with
Mhm.
a dip in the middle. So then they do the last cut, pull him out at 8:18. He cried right away. He was healthy. He was breathing on his own, which is a miracle.
Thank goodness for that steroid shot. That probably
Exactly. The
helped.
steroid worked. He was 5 pounds, which is
Wow, that's
pretty big
great.
for a 34 weeker.
Yes.
And he had no club foot.
Oh.
So there's a lot of, I'll come back to it, but basically, because he was 34 weeks, he had to go straight to the NICU. They
Mhm.
do a bunch of extra checks or
Mhm.
whatever. So they brought him over to me. I wasn't able to
Mhm.
hold him, but they brought him over to me while I was still, open.
Yeah.
And then Nick went with him to the NICU to watch them do all the
Mhm.
things. And then they stitched me up and they ended up bringing him to me in recovery like 2 hours later or something
Okay.
like that. They have to do kind of more extensive checks than a regular newborn, I guess.
Mhm.
So that is when my OB came into the recovery room and, usually they just kind of debrief the thing, but
Right.
she came and like basically gave me a whole lesson on what a bicornuate uterus is and explained that it's very hard to detect once you're pregnant. It's much
Mhm.
easier to detect when you're not pregnant.
Mhm.
It explained so much.
Yeah.
One, it explained probably why he was breech.
Mm.
If you can like picture a heart, his head was up in one, they call it horn,
Mhm.
one, you know, round part of the
Rounded.
heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like an ear almost.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
so he really probably couldn't have flipped if he
Right.
tried. So preterm labor is much more common with bicornuate uteruses because they do sort of run out of room, which
Yeah.
is like
You kn
so weird that I like felt that.
Mother's intuition.
Yeah. So that explained one thing. Bicornuate uteruses also are very associated with what's called uterine irritability, which is a hilarious term, but it basically means uteruses that don't like being pregnant.
And you were like,
And
"This sounds right."
yeah, I was extremely irritable.
Right,
Um,
I think we all have some level of uterine irritability when we're
exactly.
pregnant.
But like early contractions,
Yeah,
all of
lots of
that
Braxton Hicks.
is kind of associated with that. So that made sense.
Mhm.
And then the third thing is that because of the shape, and this is like way over my head, this would be like me trying to explain how like Wi-Fi works or something. But ultrasounds are sound waves that are bouncing off things and like guessing what the shape is, right?
Okay.
Sort of. That's my dumb way of explaining it.
Sounds right to me.
Um, they're assuming the shape of a uterus
Okay.
when they're bouncing off. So the
Oh.
fact that the shape of my uterus was a different angle, especially the top and the bottom, that's like a more of a point,
Yeah.
it can kind of like
Distort?
distort the angles.
Mm.
So the club foot, they basically think was related to that, which is
Wow.
so
That
interesting.
is so interesting. And what anything about the mass, could
The
that have
mass,
been?
no, we don't think that was related
Okay.
to bicornuate at all. They did do an ultrasound on him once he was born,
Yeah.
I think at like 2 days or something to make sure that there was nothing there. I think that was truly just something that we caught at a bad time,
Mhm.
caused a lot of anxiety.
No kidding.
But yeah, I mean, it was all in all mostly, a happy ending. He was in the NICU for 10 days, but he never needed breathing support or feeding
Mm.
support. He was just, bottle feeding from the beginning, basically. They
Wow.
just needed him to grow.
Yeah.
So he grew until, he was we brought him home on Labor Day weekend, so it was
Mm.
like 10, 11 days, and then, yeah, he was happy and healthy.
That's so wild. So, are there any inherent risks with a bicornuate uterus other than potentially early delivery? Like, did your doctor, I know it probably feels crazy to talk about a second pregnancy when you've
Yeah.
just had a baby, but did your OB tell you anything about what to expect if you wanted to have another baby?
She didn't right away,
Mhm.
but
That's
when we
good. That's
started
good bedside
Yeah,
manner.
exactly. When we started, I think I had a annual right around when Ford was, like, 1, and
Yeah.
so I was like, if we start thinking about it soon,
Mhm.
yes, the risks are preterm labor for sure, and
Mhm.
also once you have 1 preterm labor, you're
Mm.
inherently at risk for that,
Mhm.
even if I didn't have a bicornuate uterus. And then also she said the other, like, common, risk is infertility because it
Mm.
it can be harder to implant.
Interesting.
And so she was like, "Obviously, you didn't have that issue with Ford. We got pregnant pretty easily, like,
Mhm.
second month or something." So she was like, "That might not be a thing for you." But it wasn't anything that we considered, like, a showstopper
Right.
at that point.
Did you ever do an ultrasound when you weren't pregnant to see what it looks like when you're not
No.
pregnant? Yeah.
Well, yes, but not before I got
Not
pregnant
okay,
again.
yeah.
Not good timing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's funny because, like, looking back, and Nick and I have different, like, perspectives on it. Sometimes I'm like, "Should we have done more, kind of due diligence?" But you just don't know what you don't know yet, and what I realize now is it is so rare that, like, also a lot of these providers, it's not something they see all the time, so they
Right.
don't have a lot of anecdotal evidence, they
Yeah.
have textbook evidence, which is
Right.
just different, so,
It is, yeah. Were
yeah.
there any bicornuate uterus Facebook groups that you joined
Oh,
or anything?
you know it. Yes, I didn't right away,
Yeah.
but later on in the journey,
Yes.
yes, definitely. So, there's people all over the world
So
with
interesting.
the it's basically a birth defect of
Mm.
mine, and people have different, versions of it.
Mhm.
So, I don't know. It's hard to say if those groups are helpful or
I
just cause more
know.
anxiety,
I
but,
know.
when you're grasping at straws.
Yeah. It's nice to feel like you have a community,
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
So yeah.
So, yeah, my recovery with Ford was really good. I mean, I had
Mhm.
nothing to compare it to,
Right?
but I think because I felt so bad being pregnant.
Mhm.
It's funny 'cause, I had to, he had to be bottle fed for the first at least 2 weeks, maybe longer.
Mhm.
If you're before 36 weeks, they really don't want you nursing
Right.
to burn that many calories.
Mhm.
So I was pumping every 3 hours. And so the night after he was born, at some point we went to bed, I don't know, and then I had to wake up 3 hours later and pump. And I told Nick when I woke up after those 3 hours, "This is the best I've slept in months," which is, like, so pathetic because it was
Oh,
only 3 hours long, but it was so true. It was, like, as soon as he was out, the back pain was gone,
yes.
like, that just uncomfortableness was, like,
Yes.
immediately resolved. So I think maybe it's just by comparison, like, I was like, "This C-section is fine."
That's
Like,
kind of a blessing,
yeah.
like silver lining. I've heard other people say that who have hyperemesis, when they're sick throughout
Yes.
their whole pregnancy, that having the baby is such a relief. Like
Yeah.
they'll take the
It's
sleep
immediate.
deprivation and healing all day over the constant, sickness or discomfort in your
Totally.
case. So yeah, I totally get
Yeah,
that.
it's like as soon as he was out, it like snap your fingers.
Mhm.
So I feel like, oh, and also he's in the NICU, which,
Right.
one silver lining of that is that
Mhm.
you're not full time taking care of a newborn. So I could,
Rest.
all I was doing was resting and pumping all
Yeah.
day long. So maybe that helped. But I felt like literally at like a week, I felt pretty much back to normal. Okay, so this part, I'll give a trigger warning over this whole part of the chapter. Okay, so my second pregnancy was beginning of 2020. Ford was about 18 months, and we went in for our first 8-week appointment, and there was no heartbeat.
Mhm.
And so This was March 9th was our 8-week appointment, which was days before the world was shutting down. So it
Oh
was
my
a
gosh, I didn't even think about that.
yeah, it was a really, really weird time.
Oh,
The whole vibe even in the office was just like, everyone in healthcare at that time was just like on high alert.
yes.
And so, anyone who's had a loss, typically when it's early like this, they want you to come back to like confirm
Mhm,
that there's still no growth and no heartbeat because, there's always a chance that your dates were wrong
mhm.
or whatever. So we were supposed to come back a week later. By the time we came back, now the world has completely shut
Mhm.
down. Nick can't come with me to the appointment.
Mm.
And now they're not doing DNCs because they're clearing out the hospitals.
Oh,
So my only option was to take the pill and pass at home. So we did that. And, it's like at the time that was like so devastating. Plus the world was ending. I mean, it was a really
I can't
weird time.
imagine. I had a lot of anxiety just not dealing with what you were dealing with personally. I can't imagine adding to that what you were going through.
Yeah, it was just a very out of body time. But like looking back on our whole story, like that piece kind of feels more just like a hiccup, but I
Mm,
I want to, just be sensitive. Like I think no matter when you lose a baby, like everyone is completely your feelings are completely valid about it. So we passed that at home and then you're supposed to wait and get a cycle and
yeah.
then I think maybe wait one more, something like that. So by the time we started trying again, it was May. We tried May, June, July, August, September, no luck. So, and that had not been the case with the miscarriage and with Ford. It was like within the first couple months for
Mhm,
sure. So I went to my doctor and said, "Hey, I remember you saying bicornuate uteruses can be associated with infertility.
mhm.
I know, like, you're supposed to try for a year or whatever, but, you know, because I have this abnormality, like,
Right.
could we maybe like fast track this?" And she was like, "Sure." I don't remember if she had to like pull any strings, but so she referred me to a fertility specialist, a RE, reproductive endocrinologist.
Mhm.
And it's funny, my RE and my MFM are related.
Oh, wow.
They're well, their husbands are related. So they
Okay.
have the same name. So
Yeah.
I can't even say their name because it would be confusing. But so we went to
Those
see
guys clearly have a type.
yeah, isn't that funny? So we went to see her and basically she was like gave us a whole plan of tests that I should do to check on like hormones and things for why we might not be conceiving, but also imaging to get a
Mhm.
better look at my uterus from the outside and from the inside because there's a chance that there was scar tissue from the C-section. There's also a chance that some people with uterine abnormalities have what's called a septum, which is like tissue more on the inside of the uterus. So she was like, "We want to check out all these things, but you kind of have to wait till you get your period because you do them at
Mm,
different
okay.
times in your cycle. It's very precise. It's like on
Okay.
day 3, you can get this kind of ultrasound on, whatever." So we had this plan. And then a week later, I found out I was pregnant.
Oh my gosh.
So we never went through with the plan, or
Yeah.
not yet. So this is our third pregnancy now. It was also pretty stressful from the beginning.
And what point it's May
This
or
is now October,
October? Okay.
October of 2020.
World is still in chaos.
World is still in chaos. Yeah, Nick can't come to anything with me,
Ugh.
which made it, just feel more intense and more stressful.
Yep.
We got through the first ultrasound, there's heartbeat, so we felt better about that after having a loss. But then at 10 weeks, I had a really big bleed.
Mhm.
I thought I was miscarrying for
Mhm.
sure, but we went in and the baby was fine. I had a hematoma, and then they could also see another bleed in my uterus. So they basically were like, "Don't be surprised if this happens again,"
Oh
which is
gosh.
horrible.
Yeah.
And so it did happen again right after we went for our first trimester scan,
Mhm.
13 weeks. It happened on the way home, which I was like, why couldn't this have happened on the way there? Now we're having
Yeah.
to turn back around. So that was just really scary because I had so many things. Because Ford was early, because I have this abnormality, and because I had had a miscarriage, I was on the fast track for high risk. So I was
Mhm.
seeing the MFM starting at 12 weeks every 2 weeks.
Mhm.
At 16 weeks, I tested positive for the AFP test that everyone does the AFP blood
Okay.
test at 16 weeks. It's usually an indicator for spina bifida.
Okay.
So I tested positive for that. I happened to be at the MFM for my 18-week scan when I
Mhm.
got the email from
Mhm.
my OB So I was like, well, this is good timing.
Mm,
So I went in and I said, hey, I just got this result. Like, what can we do? And they basically said, okay, we can do an early anatomy scan. And with spina bifida, they're obviously looking at the spine, but there's also markers they can look for in the brain.
mm,
And then AFP can also be associated with placenta issues. So they can look at like blood flow to the placenta. Placenta accreta is
mhm.
like one of the things that would be a risk factor. So anyway, they basically went ahead and did kind of an early ultrasound. They were not seeing any indicators
Okay.
for the AFP issue. I had a really close friend who had a false positive AFP. It's
Mm.
also it's a very common false positive
Wow, I didn't know that.
situation.
Okay.
So I think because I had her in the back of my mind, I was just, and they were saying, we're not seeing anything as of now. Again, they never say like everything's fine, but they were saying as of right now, we don't have any concerns about, this marker. So, we were kind of thinking that that wasn't going to be a thing.
Right.
I was also getting progesterone shots every 2 weeks because of all my risk
Mhm,
factors. It's kind of like mixed reviews on if it's effective or not, but it's
mhm.
sort of one of those things doctors say, like, it can't hurt. And because it was COVID times, a nurse was coming to my house to give them
Oh,
to me
wow.
so that I didn't have to go to the office
Okay.
because they were just, trying to
Trying to reduce.
limit
Mhm.
traffic. So she came to my house at 19 weeks, 5 days, and gave me my shot. And she had told me before that starting at 20 weeks, she can start doing the Doppler as well during her visits. So this was 19 and 5. I was not quite 20. But I had just had like a really anxious day, week, I don't know. And my anatomy scan wasn't until the next like Tuesday or Wednesday. So it
Mhm.
was still a few days away. And so I was like, I know I'm a little early, but do you think you could do the Doppler? And so she was like, sure. She was the sweetest old lady. So she starts doing the Doppler and it's like a minute, 2 minutes, and she just can't find the heartbeat. And it was the first time she had done it. Plus, I know that, like, I'm still not that far along. It's not like when you're at the end and they find it in
Right.
3 seconds. And I know I have a weird uterus. So I'm telling myself all these
Right.
things of like, just trying not to freak out. But then I am freaking out because it's now been like 5 minutes.
Mhm.
And I mean, she and she ended up writing me a card later.
Oh.
I felt so bad for her, but finally I'm like, okay, let's stop. Like, it's fine. I'm sure it's just a fluke. We'll do it again next time. But she left and I immediately called my OB and was like, can I come in tomorrow? This just happened and I just can't wait until the anatomy scan. They're like, sure. And so we come in and Nick was not supposed to come to any appointments with
Mhm.
me, but he drove with me and we were like, worst case scenario, you'll sit in the parking lot and wait, but I'm going to like make my case. So,
Yes.
and we go just to my practice has like a separate office kind of like next door where they do ultrasounds. So we
Mhm.
go straight there and I basically say like they couldn't find my baby's heartbeat yesterday. Like I need him to come. And so they brought him in through a back door so that
Mm.
no one would see him in the waiting room, which thank God.
Yes.
And so yeah, the tech does an ultrasound and within 2 seconds it took zero time. She said, I wish I could show you something different, but you've lost your baby. Um and so we're in just complete shock because we had just had an appointment less than 2 weeks before where, they checked everything under the sun and everything was fine. It just didn't make sense. We were like, well, how is this happening? We had no answers. But we didn't really have time to worry about why. And we're just like kind of blacked out because they wanted me to deliver pretty quickly. The doctor came in and said, um, like, not to be too graphic, but what they were seeing on ultrasound, it looked like he had been dead for a while. Probably had died like pretty much like right after we had seen him in that ultrasound. And so when it's been that long, then they start worrying about infection and things like that. So they wanted me to deliver that day. It was a Friday afternoon and we were kind of like can we get our shit together, Need to figure out childcare. And so they're like, okay, you can come back at 7 a.m. They told me basically I had to deliver vaginally. I was too far along for a DNC. My immediate like instinct was like, can I just have a C-section? And
Right.
like, can you just knock me out? Like,
Right.
But I guess I wasn't far along enough for a C-section to where the incisions like wouldn't have lined up. Your uterus
Mhm.
isn't in the same spot yet, which
Mhm.
makes sense. And all the risks of like VBAC, which
Right.
I'm saying in quotes because it's not obviously a normal VBAC, are they're much less because the baby's so small. So like the risk of rupture is
Right.
minimal. So this is by far the safest. She kind of said something to the extent of like, I could make some calls if you really don't think you can do it. But to me, that meant like, okay, that's clearly not, she's not recommending that. So like,
Right.
whatever, we'll figure it out. So we go home that night, don't sleep at all, really. Go to the hospital the next morning, and they, oh, my Dr. Combs was on call,
Mm.
another miracle, which I'm like so glad she was there that day. So she like kind of gives us like a plan of what it's going to look like. And I will say the care that we got that day from everyone there was absolutely amazing. Yeah, I wouldn't wish it on anyone to have to walk into labor and delivery and know that you're not bringing a baby home, but everyone that we interacted with was like so sensitive. And, I was terrified of a random person like taking my blood pressure and saying congratulations or something. Like I would have
Yeah.
that would have been the end.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know they deal with stuff like this all the time probably, but it was, I was very pleasantly surprised. And so she told us kind of the plan of how they were going to induce, and kind of all my different options. She said, like, for pain management, she was like, "You can have whatever you want." um,
Give her the best stuff.
Literally, she was like, "If I could knock you out completely, I
Yeah.
would, but unfortunately, we're gonna need you to push." So, but she was like, literally, "You can have whatever you want and as much as you want."
Yeah.
And so she did say, though, if we go with an epidural, there's just some like extra monitoring that they have to do. And so, like, the quickest way for you to get out of here is to not do an epidural because I don't know, there's just standards of like
Mhm.
you have to check things afterwards. And obviously, it takes time to wear off and all of that.
Right.
And then she was kind of like, you're not pushing out a full size baby. So, like, in terms of pain management, you can probably do other things
Mhm.
that, you know, without it being as painful to where you're like dying for an epidural.
Mhm.
But obviously, you can also decide later.
Right.
So I kind of was like, yes, I want to get out of here as quick as humanly possible.
Yeah.
So let's go without it. I did immediately say, give me the fentanyl,
Yeah.
which I did not have a good reaction
Oh,
to.
no. Oh,
I mean, it worked for sure. Like I was not feeling pain, but well, that's not true. I was feeling pain, but I just didn't care, which is
yep.
so weird.
That was my experience with fentanyl as well.
It is like, I mean, I haven't done a lot of drugs in my life, so maybe that's what drugs are just like, but it was funny because, like, I was having super intense contractions because 'cause I'm on Pitocin,
Right.
obviously, and they're more intense, and then I got the fentanyl, and I was immediately chill, and Nick was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, so are you feeling better?" I was like, "No, but I just don't care anymore."
Yeah.
Like, it was I don't know, it's a weird experience, but it also made me super paranoid,
Mm.
like, super out of my body. I don't know, I was like a mess. I was crying, I mean, I had a million
Right.
things going on, obviously, but yeah, it was not once I was on it, I basically was like, "I want
Get
this
it out.
out." Yeah. So, at some point, I don't know if the nurses told me to or if I just, like, passed out, but I took a nap.
Mm.
I don't know if they were like, "You're not making progress, like, you need to rest." And I also don't remember if they said that I don't think I had to get to 10 centimeters.
Okay. That makes
Um,
sense.
yeah, I don't remember if they gave me a number to get to, but I think they were just kinda monitoring, like, they can sorta tell. So they told me to take a nap, and, Nick said right when I fell asleep, he had, like, texted our family, this was around, like, 4, and kinda saying, like, "I don't think we're making much progress, like, I don't we might be here a while." And so I slept for, like, an hour, woke up at 5-ish, was completely lucid, which that's
Mhm.
another weird thing, it's like, as
Yeah.
quickly as it comes on, like, then you're completely sober.
Right.
And I told him, "I think I need to go to the bathroom."
Mm.
And so I'm, like, trying to get out of bed, and I feel my water break,
Mm.
which I knew that feeling pretty well. And so before I make it to the bathroom, I tell the nurse, like, "Hey, I'm pretty sure my water just broke." And so she lifts up the sheet and is like, I think you're about to push. And so I don't think I really need to go to the bathroom. I think I just didn't
Yeah.
know what that feeling of pushing was.
Yeah.
And so I pushed on that contraction and it didn't fully come out. And then the next contraction, he came out. He before that was another thing the doctor talked about going into it. She was like, because of how long we think he's been dead, there is a chance that like things will come out in pieces, his body and also the placenta. And if the placenta didn't come out fully, then there was a chance that they would have to go in afterwards, which I
Mhm.
was just like, I did not want that.
Yeah.
So his body and the placenta fully came out in one push,
Mm.
which was definitely like an answered prayer because there was no question that like there were pieces or anything left behind. So that was good. So yeah, that was around 5-ish. So it ended up being, I think we started Pitocin at like 9 a.m.
Mhm.
So, 8 or 9 hours. My doctor immediately like took him and kind of just did a basic check of like if there were obvious causes of death,
Mhm.
which there were not. I don't think we found that out right then, but she looked at him right then. And then I had decided before that I didn't want to see him because I was afraid of what it was going to look like based on what they were saying on ultrasound, but mostly just because I couldn't handle it. I was like, yeah, I shouldn't say I didn't want to see him. I didn't think I could handle seeing him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Nick did, and so they took him and Nick followed them. I don't know where they took them, but they went somewhere and he held him and got to spend time with him for a little bit. And then they came back and checked me. I didn't have any tears or anything, thank God. So they were like, "We'll check your blood pressure in an hour or whatever, and then if everything's good, you can get out of here." So that's what we did, and they did take his body for, an autopsy and for, like, extensive genetic testing, way more than, like, what they do when you're pregnant.
Right.
Because we were just, like, eh, just at a loss of, like, "Why how did this happen?" Like, there's no reason, nothing obvious anyway. So, yeah, we went home and started the long process of healing and grieving and just, like, what is happening, Felt like our world completely got turned upside down, and it took 8 weeks for his results to come back, his autopsy and his genetic stuff, and it was all normal, which obviously in most cases that's good news, but I
Mm.
was devastated by that because I
Right.
was like,
You want an answer.
right, we wanted an answer and I'm like, how can you tell me that you can have a perfectly normal healthy baby that still dies? Like I
Yeah.
couldn't deal with that thought because then
No.
I'm like, how am I going to be pregnant again ever? How could I ever, take that risk knowing that this is a possibility like at any point?
Yeah.
Because again, we had gotten past when we'd had an early miscarriage, we'd gotten past the first trimester, like all these things that you are, kind of fake milestones, but there's still milestones in your brain. My sister had a loss earlier that year around like the 10-week mark. So we felt like we were, in the clear and then you're not. And that's just a really like, it'll change your whole perspective of,
Yeah.
what can happen. So yeah, once we got his results, basically we were immediately like, okay, the next step of, figuring out what's happening is to look at me.
Mm.
So we went back to the RE and we were like, remember that plan we were supposed to do last year? And I had to wait till I get a period again before we could start anything.
Mhm.
So it took a while. I gave birth to him on February 6th, and I don't think we started this process until like May-ish.
Mhm.
But I won't go through all the different things, but every test under the sun I did, every type of image, ultrasound, all these things. And basically she concluded that she should do what's called a hysteroscopy, which is it's like a colonoscopy, but for your
Yeah.
for your uterus. So it's like it's a surgery where you go into the uterus, but like with a little camera so that she can look around.
Mm.
And she was basically like, we know you have a bicornuate uterus, but I want to take a better look on the inside
Yeah.
and see what may be going on. And if there's anything that I can operate on, I will
Mhm.
while I'm in there.
Mhm.
So they're like looking at scar tissue potentially. She's like, if you have polyps or,
Yeah.
anything, it was kind of like an investigation.
Yeah.
Like, let's try and figure out what's going on here. So she did that. This was, I think, early June.
Are you under for this or are you
Yes, I'm
okay.
completely under.
Okay.
And so when I came out, she told us that when she went in, I not only, obviously, I have bicornuate is from the outside, like it looks like a heart from the outside. But from the inside, what she saw was down the middle of like the point of the heart was a septum, which we knew
Mm,
was a potential risk.
mm,
And it was coming almost all the way down the middle, almost
mm.
to the like bottom point of the heart,
Yeah.
if you will, which explained a lot of things also. Like that explained why Ford literally had only a half because like
Right.
he really couldn't get the two halves of the heart were almost not connected.
Right.
And then she could also see the baby that we lost, we named Harris. She could see where his placenta was implanted because I was
Mm,
only, 2 or 3 months postpartum.
yeah.
And it was right on the border of uterine wall and septum.
Oh,
And so septum tissue is not good tissue. It doesn't get the right blood flow
yeah.
or the right nutrients, all of that. So when she's like telling us all this, oh, and the best news of all is that a septum can be operated on.
Oh,
So she removed it while she was in there.
oh, wow.
And so she came out and she's telling us all of this of, you had this septum. We think this is where he was implanted. We've removed it. And that was like one of the first good days that we had in a long time of like, finally, we have an answer. Not only an answer, but an answer that something can be done
A
about,
solution,
a
yeah.
solution. Yeah. And so I just remember feeling so relieved from that. And then I think a few weeks later, they did a follow up saline ultrasound.
Okay.
So, like, the open cavity was more like two separate spaces.
Right.
They barely connected. So, when they did a saline ultrasound, they're putting liquid. And so you can see where the liquid goes, and it
Yeah.
like barely could connect there. So, she basically got rid of all of that so that it looked more like this, which
So
is
you could
like,
open it up.
yeah, it's not a circle, but it's a lot better
Right.
than,
They have a lot more room.
a
Makes it
lot more
almost
room.
doubles the space in your uterus.
100%.
Yeah.
So yeah, that once we, had that surgery and kind of felt like things are, I don't want to say resolved because we definitely were still like very, very
Emotionally.
cautious, but
Yeah.
it seemed much more promising.
Yeah.
And she actually showed us a before and after of the two saline ultrasounds, and
Yeah.
it made it very obvious of like, okay, we're dealing with different anatomy now.
Yeah.
Because in that waiting period after Harris, before we really had answers, like, I mean, I was thinking we were probably going to do surrogacy.
Mhm.
I was like, speaking of Facebook groups, was also joining like a bunch of IVF Facebook groups
Yeah.
because I was like, there's a chance we're going to have to like make embryos and do a surrogate. Like,
Right.
we are going down every possible path.
Yeah.
But so we felt at this point like, it's probably safe to try.
Mhm.
So that, I think my surgery was in June. Again, you're supposed to wait a couple of cycles or
Right.
whatever. And so we got pregnant right away in August.
Mm.
It was basically, I was still seeing the RE, but I wasn't on any drugs or anything. But it's kind of like just the most prescriptive that you could be without getting like assistance. Like
Yeah.
I was getting blood taken every week, looking at my follicles. She would tell me exactly when I was ovulating, exactly when
Wow.
we should have sex, like
Yeah.
all of that, but without any actual like assistance.
Mhm.
But yeah, so we got pregnant that month. And then that was Blair.
Aw.
And she made it to 38 weeks in 2 days.
Did you find out with her if she was
Oh, yes. We found out
okay?
everything.
Yes.
At this point, we were like, tell
Screw
us. Yes,
surprises.
tell us all the things.
And did you
Um,
feel now with the, septum removed, was your pregnancy with her more comfortable?
it was, it's hard to say. I still had really bad back pain
Mhm.
towards the end. So she was, even though she had more room, she was still in the same position as Ford.
Mm.
She was transverse breech, so
I've heard
sideways.
I've heard a lot of times the babies just once one baby kind of carves out that
Yes,
route, it's really hard for another baby to make their own way,
100%.
yeah.
But it's hard for me to separate the physical from the mental.
Mhm.
Mentally, her pregnancy was absolutely horrible.
Mm.
Just the whole 9 months from the second I peed on a stick till literally I gave birth to her.
Yeah.
I was just a shell of myself. I was like so riddled with worry constantly. Obviously, we were high risk for all the reasons. So I was getting appointments all the time, but I was like, we'd get quote good news, reassurance in one appointment, and I would feel good for like 3 seconds.
Mhm.
And then I would immediately start worrying for the next one. I was like, I told Nick at one point, I was like, I think I know how drug addicts feel. Like,
Yeah.
as soon as you get that
The
drug, you
hit.
need more. Like, I just could never come out of that fear that like the other shoe was going to drop,
Yeah.
because I was like, I have experience of like everything being fine and then it not.
Mhm.
The other thing with her pregnancy that made it even more anxiety filled was that she also had a high AFP.
Mm.
And even though Harris's high AFP had nothing to do probably with why we lost him, it was too close for comfort. I was like,
Yeah.
I can't. And they kept checking all of the reasons that it could be high and everything was fine. But it just made me on such high alert of like, oh no, now I'm just counting down for when something's going to happen.
I imagine, I mean, I don't know if you would even call it like a version of PTSD.
Oh,
And so that
totally.
I'm sure that that word, that diagnosis was triggering.
Oh, yeah. It's funny. I started going to therapy before Harris, which thank God, because I was like already
Yes.
established.
Yes.
But she told me one time when I was pregnant with Blair that like pregnancy trauma
Mm.
is one of the only forms of PTSD where the person voluntarily signs up to re-experience it.
Oh
Like,
God, I hadn't thought about that.
someone like that goes to war in Afghanistan, they
Right.
don't like go vacation in Afghanistan.
Right.
But people that have pregnancy trauma go back to the same doctors, the same hospital, the
Yes.
same rooms when they have, the worst days of their life,
Yes.
and go through it all over again. So that was like definitely part of it. And I think it's just in your body. Like your
Right.
body
Holds
remembers
that trauma. I think so.
100%. And I didn't feel good, like nauseous wise. I took
Mhm.
nausea medication,
Mhm.
Diclegis, until the day she was born,
Ugh.
which again, that can have a mental component to it too,
Right.
for sure. I wasn't like, I didn't have an appetite and whatever. Um, she was breech, so I was having back pain.
Mm.
Plus, I was between Ford being early and Paris. I was convinced that like I just needed to do nothing.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't even go for a walk.
Yeah.
I did not do not even one form of exercise.
Yeah.
Like I was grasping for things that I could control. And I
Yeah.
felt like the only thing I can do is do nothing. And so, I mean, poor Nick, he really held us down that whole pregnancy. He took care of Ford. He cooked and cleaned. Like,
So
luckily, we were
important to
both
marry the
working
right
from home.
person.
Yes. Luckily, we were both working from home. So that made it a little
Yeah.
easier. But yeah, I lived on the couch for
Yeah.
9 months. And
Hermit.
I thought once we got past where we lost Harris that I would feel better,
Mhm.
but I actually started feeling worse. Like the farther along I got, it was like the stakes are now higher. I was like, if I were to now I'm, 30 weeks. If I were to lose this baby now, I'll never recover. Like
Mhm.
I'll never, how could I come back from that?
Yeah.
So it was like as we got closer and closer, it just got worse. And then I started ruminating over different things, cord wrapped around the neck, all, everything that could go wrong in pregnancy. Went down every rabbit hole possible.
Yeah.
And she was breech. And so I was pretty prepared for a C-section. I don't even remember entertaining a VBAC just
Again, I'm sure
because,
you just wanted like the
yes,
safest, most low
exactly.
risk. Yeah.
I would have been terrified of like going for a VBAC and then ending up with a C-section
Right.
anyway.
Right.
So I was just like, let's just, kind of do the easiest, most predictable thing.
Yes.
And towards the end, I was going to the MFM, I think weekly. And so basically, they were looking for any sign that, because I was so much farther past where I delivered Ford, they're now looking for any sign that like growth is slowing down, that my placenta might be kind of
Mhm.
petering out. And so they were like, if growth is slowing down or if fluid's low or anything, like we're taking her, like
Right.
as soon as I hit 36 weeks. So I would literally go to those appointments and like beg can I go, can you wheel me
Can I do
back?
it yet? Can I do
Cause
it
I
yet?
was just like, I needed to be done being pregnant. I
Ugh.
felt bad. And I was just like, I'm not going to, I felt like I couldn't take a deep breath
Yeah.
until this baby was out.
Yes.
But she kept growing. And so we got to 38 weeks. I think they checked me at that appointment, like did a cervical check too, nothing. And so, what I'd only been to 34 before. So 38 I felt massive and
Yes.
uncomfortable. And I was just like, oh my God, how do people do this? Like people that go past their due date, oh my God, give me a trophy. So anyway, it was 38 weeks, 2 days. we're going to bed, and I'm in like in between that like almost asleep
Mhm.
phase, and I feel my water break in bed.
Wow, you just really
I know. So I knew the feeling,
Yeah,
obviously, and stood up, and it, fully comes out.
yeah.
And it's funny, this was April 28th when my water broke. Once we got to like April 20th, well, first of all, I thought I was going to have a baby like April 1st
Yeah.
based on, my history. So once we got to like the 20s, I was like, had some dates that I liked better than others. And I
Yeah.
also like planned my MFM appointments on dates that I liked because I was like, if they send me to labor and delivery, I want it to be on a good day.
I love it.
So I didn't want the 29th.
Yeah.
And so my water breaks at like 10:30 on the 28th. And Nick said one of the first things I said to him was like, do you think they can get her out in an hour? He's like, no.
Oh.
So anyway, we go to the hospital. Very similar story to Ford. Within this time I was timing contractions and they were like 2 minutes by the time we got to the
Oh, wow.
hospital. So he dropped me off and parked and I walked to labor and delivery. And I remember I had to stop a couple of times
Yeah.
and I'm like in pajamas with a towel wrapped around me, like
Right.
hot mess with water still dripping
I'm
out.
sure they see all kinds of things, all
Yeah.
kinds of crazy things.
And I just remember pretty much as soon as I got in, I was like in the middle of contraction. They checked me and she was like, we need to get you to the OR. So I think I was like
Yeah.
already 7 or 8
I was gonna say
centimeters.
2 minutes. How was your pain at that point? That's pretty.
Intense.
Yeah,
By the time I started walking in, pretty
yeah.
intense. But it was the same thing. I remember standing in my kitchen. My brother-in-law came over to stay with Ford because it was the night of the NFL draft.
Oh,
So we knew he would still be awake.
yeah.
Everyone else was asleep. So he came over and him and my sister had not had a baby yet. And so my water's broke and I'm having a contraction and it looks like I have literally an egg in my stomach that's like going completely to the right. And he's like, is that normal? I was like, I don't know, but this is what happens to me. So yeah, I was in a lot of pain by the time we're getting checked in and stuff. Like I remember it being hard to like answer the questions
Mhm.
and stuff. Cause again, my scheduled date was at 39 weeks. So I hadn't done the blood, that you're supposed to, they do a blood draw and all this stuff.
You know what?
Um,
I bet it's because your baby's your breech. I bet that's why your contractions look like that. Because
I
it's
think
the
so
head,
too.
and the head is, moving, and that's so much more distinct than just some little feet.
Yeah, that's probably
That
true,
just hit
especially
me.
like on the top.
Yes.
And that's also why my water breaks so intensely because the
Oh.
head is not at the bottom, like
It's
plugging it up.
and probably distributed better too, like but
Exactly.
yeah, those little feetsies just poking.
Yeah, it's just like it's like you just like cut it off almost.
Yeah.
Whereas people with the head down, it almost like it's like you have a plug
Yes.
in the bathtub,
Yes.
Um,
Anyway, so you're getting blood work done.
yeah,
It just hit me. I
so
was like, "Oh, I bet that's it."
I'm definitely having like super intense contractions, like barely talking through them. And then she checks and immediately just says, like, call a doctor. And so we wheel back and she's born by 1:30. So we probably got to the hospital at 11:30. So
Yeah.
I guess I labored for a while. I don't really remember,
Yeah.
but they got me into the room around 1 and then she was born at 1:37.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really thinking about the C-section going into it.
Mhm.
A lot of people say your second one is scarier because you like know what to
Oh,
expect more. But I think because I was in labor, you just can't think about anything,
right.
like you don't have time. You're so distracted, which I think is good.
Yeah.
But I remember once they started cutting, I felt like, and once they start cutting, or once you're like on the bed, they
Mhm.
take the monitors off the baby.
Mm.
And while I was in triage in the like whatever the first room that you're in before
Mhm.
you go back, they're monitoring. So I'm hearing the heartbeat. And, with how anxious I was the whole pregnancy, like I loved hearing that.
Yeah.
And I remember once they took that off and I knew it was kind of like countdown, I just felt like I was holding my breath, like, okay,
Mm.
I just need her to be out.
Yeah.
And so yeah, she was born at 137.
Mm.
She was 6 pounds, 13 ounces. So way bigger,
Yeah.
perfectly healthy. I got to hold her right away, which was
Oh,
very different. And I just felt unstoppable. Like
I'm sure.
the relief, I mean, I can't even tell you, was like, Nick asked me the next morning, like a few hours later, like, how do you feel? And I told him, I was like, I feel like I'm in college and I turned in a 900-page essay and I never have to think about that class again, like
Yes.
just the biggest weight off my
No.
shoulders.
Talk about, like a drug high. I cannot
Oh my
imagine the level
gosh.
of joy.
Truly,
Oh,
just yeah, relief, which like, I mean, I guess there's a reason they say like sweet relief. Like it was
yeah.
so, I mean, plus I felt better, my back felt better. Like
Mhm.
I
Mentally,
mean,
physically, everything.
yes, everything. I was just like on cloud 9 and for months, truly. Like, I had the best postpartum with her. Obviously she wasn't a preemie, so like that was different.
Yeah.
We didn't have to worry nearly as much about feedings and all of that. She was a good eater right away. And so, yeah, I just was like her whole babyhood. I was like, you can't tell me anything. Like I'm like, and she didn't sleep through the night till like 8 months, but I truly didn't
Didn't
care.
care.
I was like, whatever. I soaked up every second with
I
her.
get that. I get that. Oh,
So yeah.
that was
So
Blair.
in it gave me this new confidence of like, okay, things are different because
Yeah.
her whole pregnancy, I had 3 prior pregnancies. 1 was early and then 2 that didn't end well. So I was like,
Mhm.
I do not have good examples. Why should I believe that this is going to be any different,
Yeah.
But then after her, I now had this other example of good. And so very immediately I was like, oh, I could do this again. And
You
Nick was
really
like,
were high on
you are
baby.
insane. Like,
Oh.
so yeah, we're done. We were done after Blair. Nick was for sure done, like from the second she was born. I was like, I could do this again. But after a few months, turned into a year, turned into 2 years, I was very much at peace with
Yeah.
being done. He was just like, you know what we've gone through, and why would we roll the dice again? We have a
Mhm.
boy, we have a girl, like
Everyone's healthy.
everyone's healthy, like let's quit while we're ahead.
Yeah.
And so eventually I definitely came to terms with that as well. And to be honest, even if he wasn't part of the equation, I don't know that I would have had the guts to try again just because I was like, I know what I'm like in that state.
Yeah.
So I just don't know that I would have been able to like pull the trigger.
Yeah.
It's so much pressure to decide to have another
It
baby.
is. It
It's
really
like,
is.
why should I don't feel qualified to make
I
that
know.
decision.
I
Like,
so much about parenthood. I don't feel
oh,
qualified.
100%. So, spoiler alert, we got pregnant anyway.
Sometimes you don't decide.
Yes, we didn't decide, which is the only way we would have had another baby.
Yeah.
So we were very shocked. So from the beginning, it was a totally different experience because it wasn't planned. We didn't
Right.
have to try. We didn't have to
You didn't think
see 700
overthink it.
doctors.
Right.
Exactly. And so very early on, I kind of just like decided to change my perspective and be like, you know, not to sound like insensitive, but we're like, this is kind of like a bonus baby.
Yeah.
And no matter how this turns out, this is going to be my last pregnancy.
Yeah.
Even if we were to lose this baby, like we're going to be done.
Yeah.
So, kind of like I might as well try and maybe not enjoy it is the right word, but like try and not stress over it because like what's the point sort
Yeah.
of. And I actually saw a different OB at I think 8 weeks or 10 weeks that she was new to the practice.
Okay.
So I'd never seen her before. And so she walks in and, my chart's this thick. And so she's like, catch me up.
Yeah.
And so I kind of go through everything. And we had just done my first scan, saw heartbeat, whatever. And she was like, I know you have all this history or whatever, but your last pregnancy, just that pregnancy itself was actually not high risk. You were high
Right.
risk based on historical, events, but you have had a surgery since then to change your anatomy. And then
Right.
since that surgery, you've had a full-term healthy
Healthy
baby with
baby.
no risk factors.
Right.
Herself, not based on what I'd gone through before.
Yeah.
And so she was like, I don't see any reason why this pregnancy would need to be high risk. And so, you can kind of just follow the standard
Wow.
protocol. And I was like, not so fast.
Yeah. You're like,
So we made a compromise. And I was like, okay, what if we go to MFM at 12 weeks and, kind of see what she thinks, which in the back of my mind, I knew like that doctor is so conservative
Yeah.
and has followed me in every single pregnancy. So when we went there, she was like, I see what she's saying, but why don't we do 4 weeks? And I was
Yeah.
like, great. And I do think there was actually a couple times where I did 6 weeks,
Okay.
which for me was like,
huge.
I mean, I had never gone
It's
that long
forever.
without like
Yeah.
seeing a heartbeat or whatever. I mean, with Blair, this tells you how like mentally not normal I was. I bought a Doppler.
I was going to ask you that.
And I mean, you should look at my phone. It's like you would be like, you need to go to an institution. I would not only do the Doppler almost every day, but I would take a video of it so
Yeah.
that I could rewatch it
Yeah.
and tell myself that it was real,
Yeah.
convince myself. I mean, if I had 20 minutes where I wasn't feeling kicks or whatever, like it was not normal. So
I don't
for
think,
me, going 6 weeks without going to a doctor was like, so brave.
for what it's worth, I think that's very normal for what you went through.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's strange.
Well, so yeah, her pregnancy was like the biggest sign that
Mm.
she was meant to be because it was so uneventful. There was not one red flag. There was not one thing that was wrong. Like even with Ford and Blair, like I failed the first gestational
Mm.
diabetes, but then passed the second. Like
Yeah.
all of those things along the way, the standard things I passed on the first try. Like I just, she was so clearly meant to be. And I
Mm.
think early on, got this feeling that I think like God is trying to give me a redemptive
Yeah.
experience of what pregnancy could be like.
Yeah.
And so I really tried to embrace that. I mean, I still went down some rabbit holes occasionally, but not nearly to the extent that I had previously, and really did try to quote enjoy it.
Mhm.
She also, like I said, was head down. She was my first baby that was head down. And I don't know if that's 100% why, or if my body had just stretched out or
Yeah.
whatever, but I was so much more comfortable.
Mm.
I was still nauseous, but the back pain, I did not have at all. Like
Wow.
we went to a Braves game with the kids when I was like 38 weeks and I like
Wow.
walked a mile, like so different.
Yeah.
Whereas like with Blair and Ford, I was basically lived on the couch the last few months before
Right.
delivery. So yeah, I felt good, had more energy, which was also a pleasant surprise for Nick because that was one of his biggest concerns about
Yeah.
me being pregnant again. Is he's like, now we have two kids that I would be, handling basically by myself. But it ended up being so different to where
Yeah.
I wasn't putting myself on bed rest, which
Right.
was part of it. So we had a scheduled C-section for 39 weeks.
Mhm.
VBAC was out of the question because two C-sections, and then my
Hematoma? Was that a risk factor
no,
at
but
all? No?
my
Okay.
uterine surgery kind of counted as like, she was like, it's kind of like a half of a C-section.
Right. They don't want you to have, yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Even after two, most doctors won't let you do a VBAC, but she was
Yeah.
like, you're kind of like 2.5. And honestly, that's what I needed to hear because her being head down, I think I would have been tempted
Right.
as like a last hurrah.
Just make
But
it totally different.
yes. But again, I think like my biggest fear would have been doing both, which
Right.
I know a lot of people do that. And that sounds recovering in two places is not
No.
fun.
No.
So it was kind of nice to just have it like decided for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're getting close to the end. And, the longest I'd ever made it pregnant was 38 weeks, 2 days. So once we're in the like 37s, 38s, I'm thinking it's any day.
Yeah.
I'm like curb walking and it's so funny. I was like, I've never tried to get a baby out before.
I
This is a new
know.
experience.
Everything is
I've
just
always been
new.
trying to keep them in, but nothing. And finally we're getting, 2 days before and I'm like, I think she's going to stay in. This is weird, but I
Yeah.
just had a feeling. And so I was like, it's a really bizarre thing to have a planned
Mhm.
delivery. Obviously that never happened to me
I
before.
was gonna say I think it's odd in general, but especially after you've had so much
Spontaneous.
drama.
Yeah. And it's so funny because I only had two, experiences of my water breaking and whatever, but when that's all you've had, it's hard to imagine that it would change.
Yes.
So I'm like, no, my water's going to break and then, it's going to be on a random day.
Yeah.
Leading up, I was like nesting like crazy.
Mhm.
I was running around, which again was so different than past pregnancies. The day before her delivery date, Nick came home from work and he found me organizing our playing cards, like putting them in stacks, like by suits so that I could make sure there was 52. He was like, what is wrong with you? I was like, I just have to keep my hands busy. Like I
Yes.
cannot like the fact that people go to sleep knowing they're going to have a baby the next day,
I
it's too
know.
much.
I
Like you
know.
can't handle that.
I know.
So, but I will say the nice part is like you can plan. Like we had childcare taken
Yeah.
care of. My parents came and got the kids.
Yeah.
We went to dinner the night before.
Yes.
Like I had a glass of wine. I was like, this is so weird.
Yeah.
And then when we got there in the morning, the vibe is so different. It's just like, I mean, it's like you're, going in for like a brunch reservation.
Right. Getting
Everyone's
your hair
so
dyed.
chill. Like there's no rush whatsoever. There was so much just like sitting around and waiting.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we're going to give you this IV and we'll be back in an hour. I was like, this is so weird.
Yeah.
But again, I feel like it's just true to her whole pregnancy of just
So
being
much
like,
calmer.
yes, so calm, so peaceful. And so, yeah, they took me back and she was born, I think my appointment was at 9:30. She was born at like 10:20 something.
Yeah.
Perfectly healthy. She The two things that were different about her birth, one, I wasn't in labor. This is the
Mhm.
only time I've ever not been in labor.
Yeah.
And so she had a lot of fluid in her lungs, I guess,
Yes. Yeah.
that usually babies get worked out during labor.
Get squeezed a little.
Yeah. So they had to suck that out for, it kind of seemed like a while. And she
Mhm.
hated it. She was
Mm.
screaming her little head off.
Ugh.
So they had to do that for like 10 minutes and then recheck her APGAR or whatever
Mhm.
after. But she cried right away and, they knew she was healthy. And then the doctor, my Dr. Combs was not on call. She's the only baby that she didn't deliver.
Truly different in so
I
many
know,
ways.
but I did love this doctor too. But she said before she did the last incision, basically the front of my uterus, they call it like a uterine window.
Mhm.
It's when you're so stretched out that it's almost like getting thin. She was
Oh.
like, it's not a true window. A true window is where it's like very clear.
Translucent.
Yeah,
Mhm.
translucent. But she was like, it was translucent enough where we could see the baby from the outside.
Wow.
So she sort of, in so many words, was like, "You're not having any more
You
kids,
done,
right?"
son?
Yeah. And I was like, "Yes, we are retired." She was like, "You. It's not that you couldn't have any more kids, but if you did, we'd probably do a C-section earlier, like at
Yeah.
36 or 37, just to make sure you don't rupture."
And
But
they typically don't want you to have like after 3 C-sections, they start to get a little nervous,
yes,
right?
exactly. And there was even a risk. I can't remember if you go past a certain time or if it had to do with her position, but there was a risk that they would have to do the like traditional incision, which is up
Mm,
and down,
okay.
which that also has a higher risk of rupture. So if you
Mhm,
get that for whatever reason,
mhm.
then they really kind of want you to stop.
Okay.
I guess the sideways incision, I forget the name, is safer and
Mhm.
and they can do it smaller or
Yeah.
whatever.
I have a technical question.
Yes.
So going back to Ford's birth,
Yes.
so the picture you showed me where your uterus is fully out of your body,
Mhm.
all the other C-section stories I've heard, it doesn't sound like they take the uterus out. It sounds like they just kind of push on your belly and the baby pops up through the incision.
Mhm.
Did they take yours out because
I think so.
Okay.
I think it was I don't know if it was medically because she needed to like check it
Investigate
more,
it? Yeah.
investigate more, or it was for a teaching moment or both. But yeah, and I should ask Nick if they did that with Blair, but I actually kind
Yeah.
of don't think they did because I remember him saying with Blair, because she was breached just like Ford in the same position with her head kind of up in one horn of the
Mhm.
heart. They kind of had to like tug on her to
Yeah.
come out.
Do you remember
And
feeling tugging with either of
oh
them?
yeah,
Yeah,
oh
okay.
yeah, I felt it. But I feel like if my uterus was out, I wouldn't have felt it as
Right.
much. So I should ask him. But yeah, maybe Ford was the only one where they took it completely out because it was so obvious.
Right. Oh, it's so
Yeah,
fascinating.
I know. It is wild.
So Lila came out
Yes. So she's
and
out and happy and healthy. They
did you get to
stitched
hold
me up.
her?
I got to hold her right
Yeah.
away.
How much did she weigh?
She was only 6 pounds, 1 ounce.
It's so interesting how
Which,
that
yeah,
works.
she cooked the longest. So I was really hoping we were going to break 7 pounds. I
I
don't
didn't
think
break 7
she
with either of mine. So,
really.
yeah.
I don't think she grew much the last little bit. I think I'd been to the MFM like a week before and she was already 6 pounds. So like
Mhm.
she'd only gained an ounce or something,
Yeah.
which is funny because pretty much with all of them, or definitely with Ford and Blair, I had an appointment like within 2 days
Mhm.
of them coming out. And they were within like an ounce or two of what they guess the
Yeah.
size is, which I feel like a lot of people, you know, ultrasounds get a bad rap for
Yes.
like
Right,
those
for
for
inaccuracy.
sizing.
Yes.
But I will say at an MFM, they're using different
Yes,
technology
I've
that's
heard that too.
very accurate.
Mhm.
So my experience, besides the clubfoot,
But we
is
know
that
why that
they're
happens,
pretty
yeah.
reliable. Like
Yes.
they're usually like a pretty good indicator of size. So yeah, I just think Lila didn't grow much at the end
Yeah.
because I don't know. Yeah, I was probably
You're
my
ready.
uterus was petering out a little
Right.
bit, but so
Oh,
yeah, they stitched me up and then I was good. Again, same. My recovery really with all three
mhm.
was pretty good. I think I just don't do the best with pregnancy. So maybe it's just by comparison, I
Yeah,
feel so much better. But
yeah,
I think with all of them within, obviously it's hard to stand up and all of that the first few days, but
yeah,
I really think compared to other stories I've heard, like I've had an easy go of it in terms
yeah.
of getting back to normal.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah,
I feel like we all pay our dues one way or the
exactly.
other.
It's like, I'll take that.
Oh, amazing. I
Yeah.
had a question I was gonna ask you, and then it just escaped my mind. Oh, okay. So you have 2 girls,
Yes.
and you know that the bicornuate uterus is
Oh,
genetic.
yes.
So are you going to get them pre-screened? At what age do you do
Yes.
it? Yeah.
I haven't thought through what age, but I will definitely get them screened
Mhm.
because now we know that it's much easier to see beforehand.
Yeah.
And, it's hard to say of like, kind of what's the point? I guess if it were to be extra severe, it's just, knowledge is power. They would know
Right.
that going into a pregnancy. There's also a chance that it's not as severe. We know
Mhm.
it runs in families, but it's not a guarantee by any
Mhm.
means. My sister found out that she has an arcuate uterus, which is similar to what my mom has,
Okay.
which is a much less severe version. It's heart-ish, I would say. It's like just a little dip at the top
Okay.
instead of a full, like coming
Mhm.
fully in. So yeah, there's definitely a chance, but it could be like, but like me and my sister have different things. So
Right.
even Blair and Lila could have different versions, or they could have nothing.
Right. I wonder if the gene gets kind of like diluted as it,
Yeah,
as
I have no clue.
the generations continue.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. But yeah, I think it's just good for them at least to be aware of.
Yes.
My mom, they saw that, randomly before she had babies, but then she had 3 vaginal births and had no
Mhm.
complications. And so you never know.
Yeah.
Everyone's version is different.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Well, I cannot thank you enough for sharing all of your birth stories, with me and with
Yeah.
our audience. And as you probably know, because you've listened to some episodes, I always ask people to describe birth in 3
I
words.
forgot about this. I should have been
I know,
prepared.
I feel like that's a lot to ask of you. You've had such
Oh
different
gosh.
births.
Okay, let me think. I really should have been prepared. I've
No,
listened to your
I actually
podcast.
prefer to
Uh,
catch people off guard, so
okay, the first thing that's coming to mind is like instinctual.
mm,
Like anytime I've been in labor, there's something that just like takes over your body. Like it's
yeah.
very animalistic,
Yes,
like
totally agree.
it's like, and I don't even have that many memories of like the actual labor part. And I think that's because you're just like, so everything else is blocked out. Like it's
Mhm,
just you and your body, and
mhm.
you're just like
Primal.
primal. Yes,
Mhm.
maybe that's the word. Yeah, which is so cool. It's
It
like,
is.
it's such a, it's something that you could never explain to anyone before you
Yeah.
go through it. And then, yeah, it's just, you never, I feel like maybe there's other types of situations in life that put you in that position, like
Mhm,
kind of fight or flight-ish a little
mhm.
bit. But yeah, it's a very like you can't think about anything else, which
Yeah.
is kind of cool. And then I would say miraculous. I mean, all of
Mhm.
my births for sure are miraculous for a million ways. It's funny, we tell the kids their or Ford and Blair, Lila hasn't had a birthday yet, but we always tell them their birth stories on their
Yeah.
birthday. And Ford's 7 now, so, like, we're starting to have more conversations about, how it actually works,
Mhm.
and, when my sister had her first, I was in the room with her,
Oh, that's so cool.
and so he had only heard his story, which is very easy to tell a C-section birth story to a toddler because it's like, "The doctor took you out of my tummy," which is
Yeah.
100% true. So then he kind of was asking questions about my
Oh,
sister,
yeah.
and so we started the conversation of like, "Well, some people have babies differently," and the last time we told it to him, we were having kind of a similar conversation, and he was like, "But then why do some people have C-sections?" And I told him, I was like, "You know what? If I had you, 200 years ago, we both probably would have died because you were in a position that you probably could have never turned around."
Mm.
And I know some people, there are
Breech
breech
vaginal.
vaginal
Mhm.
births, but I think with all of our factors, like it would have been it would have been scary for
Yeah.
sure. So I'm like, thank God that was invented
Yes.
for these situations, and that
Yes.
we have that option. So in all the ways, miraculous.
Yes.
And then I'll say just like life changing.
Mm.
Like your life is so, for me for sure, like divided into before and after. Like no
Yes.
matter what, I could have never, and obviously I had a baby at 34 weeks, so I definitely wasn't prepared. But I think even at 40, 41 weeks, you have no idea what's coming. It's there's this Sarah Bareilles song that I always listen to on my kids' birthdays. We always get them donuts. So when I'm driving to get donuts at like
Aw.
6 a.m., I listen to it and cry in my car. But there's a line that's like, I'll remember to say that we were both born today.
Oh.
I know.
Ooh, that got me.
Yeah. It's so true. It's like
Oh,
I'm a different person than I was yesterday, literally. And I think that's true every time.
yeah.
Like I'm who I was before you were born and after is different. So yeah, I can't think of anything else that's more life altering
Yes.
and like, yeah, world shattering.
It's so true. It's, I became a mom the first with my first son, but then the mom you are is when you have a second and third baby, it's different each time. You're a different
100%.
person and oh man. Woo.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate your perspective and your openness, and I know that so many women will appreciate you sharing all of your stories,
Yeah.
and just thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope I again, I don't wanna induce anxiety for anyone, but it's now that I know I'm done having babies, it's much easier for me to, like, look at my journey kinda
Yeah.
holistically
Yeah.
and be able to see the big picture, and I can see the hope,
Mhm.
and I hope that it does provide some hope for someone. I It's funny, I just ran into, like, a friend of a friend that had a baby at 34 weeks,
Yeah.
and her baby's still pretty little, like
Yeah.
2 or 3 months, and I was like, Ford was born at 34 weeks. And she was like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot that. And she was like, what about others? And I was like, no, I made it till 38 and
Right.
39. And she was like, oh my gosh, I needed to hear that because I'm already like spiraling over how can I ever be pregnant again?
Mhm.
So I feel like sometimes just hearing,
Yeah.
you know, how things work out hopefully can maybe be helpful for someone.
And I've heard even with other moms who have experienced loss, it's really hard to trust your body again is, like, consistently what
Totally.
I've heard, and you have 2 beautiful examples of your
Yes.
body doing it.
Yes.
Doing it.
That was one thing after Harris I remember Nick and I talking about is we were so thankful that we did have Ford because I
Right.
think if it was our first pregnancy,
Mm.
I would have been really deep down that hole of like, I don't know that this is in the cards, you
Yeah.
know? So the fact that it had worked once was like that little shred of hope to hold
Yeah.
on to and probably is what made us brave enough to, end up trying again. So,
I think I'm gonna give you a 4th word, and it's hope.
oh, I like that.
Or hopeful, either one.
Yes, I'll
Yeah.
take that.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yes.
You've been listening to the Rivals Podcast. Until next time.